What's happening? Happy Friday to all of you. Thanks for joining me as always. It is much appreciated. We have a lot of the draft to cover, but let's actually start with Drake Maye. We haven't talked about Drake Maye for a while. We haven't led a podcast off with Drake Maye for quite some time. Don't remember the last time we spent a lot of time on the quarterback. So let's start with Drake, and then we'll get to the draft stuff. Jalon Walker, momentum building, him possibly going to the Patriots at number 4. And then I have 5 draft nuggets for you heading into your weekend. Starting with Drake. So much attention has been paid on free agency and now the draft, and we all understand why, right? It's all about the timing. We all get excited about team building. We think about talent being added to this roster. Who can you sign? Who can you draft? How good can this team truly be in 2025? All the hopes and dreams of actually putting a roster together that is going to compete this season. So I understand, you understand, free agency, the draft. But really, Drake Maye's development is as big as any offseason story the Patriots will have. And you could argue that Drake Maye's development is the biggest offseason story for the Patriots. The next 5 months going to be absolutely gigantic when it comes to Drake Maye's 2025 and whether or not he starts to fulfill the potential that we saw last year in flashes. This is a big-time offseason for Drake. It's a big-time offseason for the Patriots. Their young quarterback has to take those steps. Year 2 improvement is critical. Drake Maye can't stay in neutral. If he stays stuck in neutral, we have a problem. If he takes steps backwards, we have an even bigger problem. He's got to continue the path, take steps in the right direction, and show us that he is learning each and every week and that he can be that guy for this team for the next decade. Those rookie mistakes last year, no longer rookie mistakes. We can't see those, right? We can't see a bunch of them. So this is a critical offseason for Drake Maye. If you look back at Josh Allen, what Josh Allen did in his rookie season 2018 to what he did in 2019 to what he did in 2020, he really exploded on the scene in 2020. Josh Allen in 2020 completed almost 70% of his passes, over 4,500 yards passing, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and his passer rating was 107.2. He made a gigantic leap from year 2 to year 3. But when you look at what Josh Allen did from year 1 to year 2, you saw him taking those steps in the right direction. You saw him improving. You saw him truly getting it as an NFL quarterback, which allowed him to step into year 3 and have the kind of season that he had. His rookie year wasn't great. I don't know how many of you remember Josh Allen's rookie season. It was not a memorable season at all. He completed less than 53% of his passes. He had 10 touchdowns. He had 12 interceptions, more picks than TDs. His passer rating was under 68. It was 67.9. So you take that season, 10 touchdowns, 12 picks, passer rating under 68, completing less than 53% of his passes. You take that rookie season to the third year that I just mentioned, that huge leap. Well, how did he get there? He got there because the middle season, that second season, he took some steps. He was better than his rookie year. He wasn't nearly as good as his third season, but he took those steps of development. Josh Allen, from his first year to his second year, completion percentage increased by 6%. He went from 52.8 to 58.8. His yardage went from 2,000 and change to 3,000 and change. He doubled the amount of passing touchdowns he had from his rookie season to his sophomore year. He went from 10 touchdowns to 20 touchdowns. He cut down on his picks. 12 interceptions in his rookie year, only 9 interceptions. Josh Allen had only 9 interceptions in his second season. His passer rating went from 67.9 to 85.3. So you saw the steps, you saw the progress, you saw the development. And that development in year 2 led to that huge year 3. And Stephon Diggs, of course, now here in New England, certainly helped Josh Allen getting to what he got to in year 3. Will we see Drake Maye do the same kind of thing? Will we see that progress from year 1 to year 2? Maybe not necessarily making the gigantic leap, But maybe that gigantic leap comes in year 3. Maybe he follows the exact path that Josh Allen did with the Buffalo Bills. That leads us to Brian Hines from CLNS. He posted this the other day. Garrett Bradbury met with the media. Bradbury told the media that Maye is expected to handle, quote, a lot of the pre-snap communication. Quote, Drake's ready for that. They wouldn't put a lot on his plate if they didn't have belief in him. I think he's a really smart young player, and it will only help him grow. So Bradbury, obviously the center has a lot of communication responsibility in the offense. And here is Bradbury telling us, as we remember, McDaniels, you relied on Tom Brady to run a lot of the stuff at the line of scrimmage. And so here we have Garrett Bradbury telling us that Drake Maye is going to be responsible for a lot of the communication at the line of scrimmage. And I go back to Josh McDaniels when he was talking about the cup analogy, the idea that a rookie quarterback, when you're dealing with young quarterbacks, you want to try to fill the cup, but you fill the cup slowly because you don't want to overpour, so to speak, right? You don't want to give that young quarterback too much too soon. And I think we'll see that from McDaniels. Inevitably, Drake Maye will be responsible for a ton at the line of scrimmage, but I don't think McDaniels is going to throw that on his plate right off the bat and say, you are responsible for everything. I think there will be some slow progress throughout camp. And then eventually, as you're getting towards the end of camp, you get through the joint practices, you get ready for the preseason. Eventually, we will see Maye at that line of scrimmage being in control for the most part, not 100%. Think back to Mac Jones. I know some of you don't want to think back to Mac Jones. I get it. But Mac Jones in 2021, Mac Jones had a lot of responsibility, but Josh McDaniels was in his helmet, right? Talking to him up until the final 12, 15 seconds of the play clock. And McDaniels would help Mac Jones figure out what the defense was trying to do, what alignment they wanted to set up for the offensive plays. And Josh McDaniels would slowly help Mac Jones throughout the game. And then Mac Jones would inevitably start developing the gene to see what's happening out in front of him at the NFL level, how to control the line of scrimmage, how to get into audibles, get guys into motion, out of motion, all those different kinds of things. Mac Jones did that in 2021. And I think we'll see a very similar path with Drake Maye in 2025, where Josh McDaniels will be there. He will be in the headset right there in the helmet with his headset on, talking to Drake Maye before the play, getting him as prepared as possible. And then eventually, more and more, Maye takes that responsibility. Maye seemingly has a high football IQ, which helps. Maye can process certain things in front of him, which certainly helps. And to go along with McDaniels helping him through the early portions of the season, you hope that Drake Maye, by the end of the year, is running the show from beginning to end. Here's something else that was said about Drake Maye. Mark Daniels from Mass Live posted this. Antonio Gibson, running back, said, there's a quote-unquote big difference with Maye entering his second offseason. Gibson said that Maye is showing leadership qualities. Of course he is. Maye has no obstacles in front of him, right? You go back to last year, you had Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett was going to start for the Patriots. Everybody knew it. Brissett knew it. Maye knew it. No matter what was being said during camp season, we all knew that Jacoby Brissett was going to be the starting quarterback. He was going to begin the year as the guy for the Patriots. Jacoby knew that. Drake knew that. Everybody knew it. That's not the case. This is Drake Maye's football team. Brissett is gone. Joe Milton was traded. The Patriots, they're handing the keys to Maye, as they should. When you draft a guy third overall, that's what you should be doing. So this is all clear and understood. This is Drake Maye's offense. This is Maye and McDaniels trying to make that tag team work, trying to make that combination work in 2025. There's no veteran in front of him. There's no second-year player who believes that he can beat out Drake Maye in a competition. There's no concern about the fans, some of them rooting for Joe Milton as he does backflips in the end zone. There's none of that. And because Drake Maye knows he's the guy, and we know he's the guy, and he's set up to start game number 1 in 2025. There's a level of confidence there from Maye. And now Maye, who has always been, according to reports and former teammates, has always been a good communicator, a good leader. Now he has even more confidence walking into a second season, understanding that this is his gig. This is his offense. And so I'm not surprised that Antonio Gibson told the media this week that Maye is showing more of those leadership qualities, because that's part of the job. And Maye understands that. And Maye now has more power than he had last year. And he has nobody standing in his way. I'm excited. Hopefully you're excited for Drake Maye as well, because I think we are going to see those steps. We are going to see a progression with the help of McDaniels, with the help of Stephon Diggs and some of the other people that'll be a part of this offense. I think Maye will show those steps heading in the right direction and getting us truly excited for 2026 down the road, with hopes that he can maybe not do exactly what Allen did, because that was a tremendous third year, but at least get close to what Allen did by year 3. And then you're on your way. And then we have the conversations of Drake Maye being a top 5 quarterback in the league. But we got to take things slowly, steady progress. Year 2, developmental over the next 5 months, critical for Drake Maye, critical for the football team. All right, Jalon Walker. It feels like Jalon Walker week. I don't know if you feel it, but I feel it. Everybody's talking about Jalon Walker. Jalon Walker is sweeping throughout the media here in New England over the past 4 or 5 days. There wasn't a ton of talk about Walker before this week. Now I can't go anywhere. Online, on the radio, on TV, I can't go anywhere without hearing Jalon Walker's name being linked to the Patriots. We'll talk about that coming up next. First, don't forget to do a couple of things that helps us here. Hit that thumbs up button as you watch us on YouTube. More likes means more eyeballs. I've been saying it for the last year and a half plus since we began this podcast, when it was known as the Nick Cattle Show. Now it's Everything Pats, a New England Patriots podcast. Don't forget to click that thumbs up and like the YouTube channel. Don't forget to throw your comments in. Old Man Lob throwing in Will Campbell or Abdul Carter at number 4 as a comment. Anonymous says they would vote for Campbell. Adam comes in and says, sup, bro. Sup, Adam. Anonymous again, happy Friday also. Don't forget to throw your comments in. Don't forget to hit that like button as you watch. And don't forget to subscribe. We are less than 30 subscribers away from our goal of 6,500 subs by the first round of the NFL draft. We are now under 2 weeks away. We're 13 days away from the NFL draft. Let's hit that 6,500 subscriber goal with Everything Pats. All right, before I get to Jalon Walker, I remind you to check out the Locked On Patriots podcast. I'm obviously doing content over there. First week of pods at Locked On done. I know I'm asking a lot. You're not going to catch every single thing that I do, but if you have some time, you want to hear some more Patriots content, you can check out that podcast as well. Pete Pretorius with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Pete, for the $5. To save Rabel kept the promise, quote, to build this from the inside out, unquote. Do we need to see at least 2 offensive line picks within the Pats' first 4? I don't want to put a number on it. What I do want to see, I believe that you absolutely have to get a tackle within your first 2 picks, whether that's at 4, whether that's at 38, somebody falls to you, whether that is you trading back into the first round. You have to get a tackle with one of these first 2 picks. You have to. Because the chances of you drafting a left tackle in the 3rd round, 4th round, that is going to help you immediately, it's a very, very tall task. It's very tough to ask any prospect drafted in the 3rd or 4th round at that position specifically to help you right away. It's possible, but it's not probable. So I do think the Patriots have to absolutely draft a tackle one out of those first 2 picks. But I want to see how the board falls, right? I don't think that they should be reaching for an offensive lineman just because the guy plays offensive line. So you could end up drafting, somebody that's later on in the 4th round that can help you. You can draft an interior offensive lineman. You can draft a center. You can draft other guys beyond the 3rd round, or at least with that last pick of the 3rd round, which would be your 4th pick. but I don't think it's a necessity, at least not for me. I don't want them going into this draft saying we absolutely need 2 offensive linemen within the first 4 picks that we have, because that makes you reach. Now you're drafting way too much for need. So, yes, I think you've got to draft a tackle early. And if you draft a tackle with one of those first 2 picks, you're on your way. Because at left guard, you could go into camp with Sidney So, Layden Robinson, Cole Strange, and say one of those 3 guys should be able to be at least average for you at left guard. You brought in Garrett Bradbury. You paid him in free agency. He's your starting center. You went out and you paid Morgan Moses. You paid Michael Wenu last year. But to walk out of this draft without a tackle would be inexcusable and, frankly, irresponsible. But I wouldn't put a number on it and say, oh, you've got to draft this many offensive linemen through the first, 2, 3, 4 picks. I wouldn't go that far. Some of you might. I personally would not. Again, thanks for the $5, Pete. I appreciate it. Greg jumps in with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate the 20. Great job, Nick, with Locked On with Greg, and, of course, everything Patriots. Kudos. I'm trying to keep the content unique, and we'll have more changes as time goes along. I have a couple of ideas. I got to brainstorm over the weekend now that I know the schedule a little bit better and what I'm looking at. But I appreciate the kind words, Greg, and I especially appreciate the support and generosity with that $20. Thank you, sir. All right, Jalon Walker, the momentum has been building this week. I feel it. I'm sure you've been feeling it. Mike Giardi came out with his mock draft, his latest. He had Walker going to the Patriots at number 4. He wrote, Walker may be the best player in the draft, not named Hunter or Carter, and he has a lot of fans at one Patriot place. He has a lot of fans. My friend Pat's Pro 21 on Twitter, who watches the pod every once in a while, broke some news early in this offseason. He ended up writing this on Twitter, massive amount of fans in the building, talking about Walker. I'm told every interaction has built his rapport with those in the building. I'm also told he killed his top 30 visit. Burt Breer wrote this about Walker. So who will be the first non-quarterback to go after Hunter and Carter? I think Jalon Walker has a shot to be that guy. So there's a lot of momentum building behind Jalon Walker as we get closer to the draft. I know many people say you have to go offense at number 4. You have to help Drake Maye. You have gigantic holes at wide receiver still. You've got a huge hole at left tackle. You have to go offense. What I would ask Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf, all those guys at Gillette, what I would ask them is, do they believe that Jalon Walker has the potential to be a blue chip kind of guy? Do they think that Walker can be a Pro Bowler? Do they think he might be just on the outside looking in of the all-pro category? Because if you think Jalon Walker has that kind of ceiling, if you think Walker could end up being the best player in this draft that is not named Hunter or Carter, then you draft Jalon Walker at 4. And you say to yourself, we'll have to find other ways to get that offensive line help. If you feel that he is on the cusp of all pro, if you think this guy could be as good as the top 2 players in the draft, I don't know if that's the case. I would love to know if the Patriots feel like that is the case. So let's get into Walker. Walker and the Patriots makes a ton of sense. Just makes a ton of sense. First, he's a Vrabel kind of guy. He's got a great motor. He is a really good leader. He is a hard worker. And everything you read about him, everything you hear about him, everything that you watch about him tells you that he has a pristine character. This is somebody who knocks out the interviews. This is somebody that you're not worried is going to be unprofessional. You're not worried about this guy saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. Jalon Walker, when it comes to character, everybody will tell you he, quote unquote, checks all the boxes. He has a clean sheet. A clean sheet. So when Vrabel talks about building culture, when he talks about bringing in the right guys to his program, Walker's that type of guy. Pristine character, leader, hard worker, constant motor. So he's a Vrabel type guy. Now, the question about Jalon Walker, a lot of the questions, stop me if you haven't heard this before, A lot of questions about Jalon Walker is his size, a common theme of the 2025 NFL draft, because he's seen as a tweener. Is he an off-ball linebacker? Is he a defensive end? Can he play edge at the NFL level? When you look at his measurables, we did this with Will Campbell, right? When you look at his measurables, Walker's only 6'1". Now, as far as defensive end goes, that would put Walker in the second percentile. So he's short. He weighs 243 pounds. 243 would put Walker in the sixth percentile in the NFL. So he's shorter, he's thinner. Let's get to arm length. You love arm length. I love arm length. Jalon Walker's arm length, 32 inches, which would put him in the fifth percentile in the NFL. So height, second percentile. Weight, sixth percentile. Arm length, fifth percentile. Not a big guy to play edge. But here's what I would do. I would look at Harold Landry, who, of course, is now here in New England. I went and I looked up Landry's measurables because we know that Landry fit perfectly within the Vrabel defense. They obviously went out and they signed him in free agency. He's a great fit for this system. So compare Landry to Jalon Walker. Interesting comparison. Jalon Walker's 6'1". Landry is 6'2". Walker's 243. Landry's 252. You'd imagine that Walker can put on some weight when he gets to the NFL. And I've heard the reports. I've heard people say that Landry this past year for Tennessee, he was down to the 230s. So when you compare Landry, 252, Walker 243. Walker can gain that weight. Walker 6'1", Landry 6'2". Arm length. You've got Walker at 32-inch arm length, Harold Landry 32 7/8. So Harold Landry would be undersized. He would be considered undersized to play the edge in the NFL. But Vrabel made that work and made Landry shine. So I don't see a big difference between Harold Landry and Jalon Walker when you look at the measurables. I don't think there's a significant difference. And Jalon Walker at Georgia was incredibly productive. We talk about Will Campbell against SEC competition. Jalon Walker against SEC competition, he was very productive. He had 34 pressures. 34 pressures. His pass rush win rate was 17.2%. So this is somebody, when he was put on the edge, when he was given that responsibility to get after the quarterback, Jalon Walker proved in the SEC, best conference in the country, he proved that he could consistently get to the quarterback. He could consistently win one-on-one. He could consistently cause those pressures. He's an exciting player. And he's a Swiss Army knife. Some people look at the term tweener and it's seen as a weakness. But if you have the right coaching staff and you have the right player who's willing to work hard, is super intelligent, has been highly productive, and is just happy to play every time he gets a snap. If you have a guy like that, being a quote-unquote tweener could actually work to your advantage because you can do a lot of different things. Walker at Georgia, he took snaps at inside linebacker. He took snaps at outside linebacker. He took snaps at defensive end. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to think about Jalon Walker as the ultimate weapon on the defense and how Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams can utilize his talent. Think about how they can sprinkle him in different spots and use that versatility to their advantage and make this defense incredibly difficult to deal with. Now you've got Landry, now you've got Walker, you've got Keon White, you've got Barmore, you've got Milton Williams. We're talking about a lot of talent in that front seven. A lot of talent. And Jalon Walker can do a lot of different things for you defensively. I just have to imagine that would get Mike Vrabel, Terrell Williams, Clint McMillan, and Mike Smith. I would imagine that would get all four of those guys excited to work with Jalon Walker. And because he has that work ethic, because he has great character, you feel like you can build upon his natural gifts. You feel like that's a player who's going to walk into the program and immediately be a sponge. And you could just put him in all different places and make him a nightmare for the offense that you're going against. That gets me excited. I know we talk offense. And again, left tackle is the need. But if you're not sold on those guys, if you're the Patriots and you think that Jalon Walker is a better prospect and you feel like you can get a tackle, you can move back into the first round, you have that intel, and you feel confident that you can go out there and get that tackle that you need in this draft out of those first 2 picks, and Jalon Walker is sitting there, if you think about it defensively, he's an exciting prospect. And I trust Vrabel, I trust Williams to utilize him in the right way. And usually people with a motor, usually people with that work ethic, usually that the people with the character. Look at Jaylen Brown when he was drafted to the Celtics. A lot of questions about him, right? But he works tirelessly, nonstop on his game. High character guy, super intelligent. So when you have somebody like that, those types of athletes, those types of pro athletes usually get better. And they get better more rapidly than other guys. So Jalon Walker, if Hunter and Carter are not there and you're sitting at 4, Jalon Walker should 100% be in serious consideration for that pick at number 4. I'm not going to tell you who I'm picking at 4 until we get close to the draft. You know that. I don't go back and forth wishy-washy. I don't give you 15 different mock drafts. I wait until the week of the draft. I take it all in. But I will tell you that Jalon Walker gets me excited, and I think he's somebody that should be absolutely in serious consideration for that 4th pick in the draft in 13 nights. All right, I want to give you some draft nuggets heading into your weekend. Don't forget to click that like button as you watch us on YouTube. Let's help take advantage of that algorithm, help a brother out, help the live stream out. You click that thumbs up, more eyeballs get to see the product. I appreciate that from all of you. Don't forget to throw your comments in. I see a bunch of comments being thrown in. Brendan McCaffrey says that's what I like the most about Walker. He dominated in college. Tony Stark says Zach Thomas was small too. So don't forget to like, don't forget to throw your comments in, and don't forget to subscribe as we try to hit that goal of 6,500 subscribers by the night of the draft. We're less than 30 away. We got 13 nights. All right, some draft nuggets. Did you see what happened with the Cleveland Browns today? Why am I talking about the Cleveland Browns? Because the Cleveland Browns went out and they signed Joe Flacco. Their quarterback room right now is Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Deshaun Watson. Watson's not going to play. He tore his Achilles not once but twice. Kenny Pickett, we've seen Kenny Pickett. Joe Flacco is 40 years old. The fact that Cleveland Browns signed Flacco makes me believe with 100% of certainty, with every fiber of my being, the Browns are going to draft a quarterback. Now, that's not to guarantee they're going to draft Shedeur Sanders. It's not to say that they're going to draft a quarterback at 2 overall. But it's hard for me to believe that they're going to pull a trade-off for Kirk Cousins with Deshaun Watson's contract on the books, Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco also in the quarterback room. This screams to me that the Cleveland Browns are going with a Patriots-like approach from last year. You bring in Flacco, a guy that has been in Cleveland before. He's the perfect bridge quarterback until your rookie quarterback is ready. That's what Joe Flacco is to me. You don't want to pay Kirk Cousins the money he's going to be getting or asking for if you have to restructure the contract. He didn't look good last year coming off the Achilles. He's 36, 37 years old. You don't want to give up any kind of assets for Cousins. And so you go out and you get Joe Flacco to be that Band-Aid for the first month or two. So I don't think that they're going to go out there and trade for Cousins. I thought they would a week ago. I don't feel that way anymore. Not with Flacco Pickett as the combination. I think that screams that they're going to draft a quarterback. Maybe it's not at 2. Maybe it's in the second round. Maybe they trade into the first round to draft somebody. Maybe it's Sanders. Maybe it's Jackson Dart. But that Joe Flacco signing in Cleveland tells me the Browns are going to draft a quarterback. Nugget number 2. The positive evaluations for Will Campbell continue to pour in this week. Here's the latest from Field Yates at ESPN. Field Yates on the most fascinating thing he's heard off pro day workouts. Here's what Field wrote. The number of evaluators who are unbothered by Campbell's arm length really stands out to me. I was hard-pressed to find an executive or coach who doesn't view Campbell as the best tackle of this class. And those same people told me his length was not a concern on tape. Yates writes, I'm not ignoring his arm length from the combine, but most people I talk to are bullish on Campbell becoming a really good left tackle. A really good left tackle. He has excellent footwork, balance, and body control to hold up as a pass protector. So Field Yates says that the most fascinating thing that he has heard off the pro day workouts is that the number of evaluators that he has spoken to are not worried whatsoever about Campbell's arm length. They're not worried about the length. They're not worried about the arm length. They're not worried about the wingspan. They're not worried about him. And Yates says that he would be hard-pressed and was hard-pressed to find an executive or a coach who doesn't view Campbell as the best offensive tackle in this class. Now, I talked about Will Campbell on the Locked On Patriots podcast this week. We had some other quotes earlier in the week from personnel sources that spoke very highly of Campbell. And they said mostly the same kind of thing. We're not worried about Campbell's length. We think that he's going to be an above-average tackle in the NFL. So we have a stream of people now, executives, coaches, analysts, pundits, saying that Will Campbell is damn good and that there's not much concern throughout the league that he can't play tackle. There is this growing sentiment that Will Campbell's a left tackle and that no team should be worried about him not being able to play that position in the NFL. Interesting stuff. All right, I got nugget number 3 coming up in just a minute, but first let me jump to some super chats. Nick Beer Money, since it's Friday, thank you, Anonymous, for the $10 super chat. I appreciate you. Kelly and I were just talking about heading to a local brewery that opened up a little bit more space. They renovated, so I think that's what we're going to do tonight. So not even tonight, in about an hour or two. Thank you, Anonymous. I appreciate the 10. Eddie Thomas jumps in with a $5 super chat. We're going to beat that algorithm so bad it's going to think it owes us money. It reminds me of the Chappelle show. Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate the 5, man. Yeah, continue to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's beat the bag out of the algorithm. After the huddle. Sup, buddy? Thanks for the 5. Life been good? Yeah, not bad. Also, what are the chances we trade back if Sanders is there at 4? If the Saints call, what would you accept? And I talked about this week. The idea, and again, thank you for the 5, ATH. The idea that, if Sanders falls to you at 4 and you can trade back, I would say it's possible. I don't think it's probable from what I'm reading. And again, it's smokescreen time. It's lying season. So a lot of people are saying a lot of things to try to get some leverage with their own draft and all that stuff. So we all have to acknowledge that and understand that. It's all about the smokescreen. It's lying season. But from what I have read, and this is coming from people in the NFL, this is coming from draft experts and Todd McShay and a bunch of others, Dane Brugler, Yates, Kuiper, everybody that I read. It sounds right now that it's very unlikely. I know Diana Rossini said this on her latest podcast. At least the word going throughout the league is that there are not going to be teams looking to trade up. Teams are actually looking to trade down. So that's the feel right now. But as I said this week on a prior podcast, all you need is, one team to fall in love with the guy to be willing to make that move. If you have 2 teams falling in love with the guy, that's even better because then you could leverage them against each other. But If you have a team that's absolutely in love, they might not want to take any chances and just say, I'm going to do what I got to do to go get Shedeur Sanders. So I think it's always possible that could happen. But from what I'm reading and the stuff that's out there, I don't find it very probable. Marilyn, $25 super chat. Thank you, Marilyn. If Hunter isn't there, just take Campbell. Parentheses, monthly support. Well, I thank you for the monthly support in the super chat. I'm picking this up a lot, Marilyn. It feels like there's been a swing towards Will Campbell over the last week or two. It really feels that way. It feels like more Patriots fans now are open to the idea of Campbell. And I don't know if it's because of the 33 arm length measurement at his pro day. I don't know if it's because, more fans are doing a little bit more research as we get closer to the draft and they realize what I've been talking about and many others have been talking about the past several weeks, that, this draft, everybody you're looking at has questions. Every single person you're looking at has questions at 4. If Hunter and Carter are not there, even Carter now, you hear some questions about the character stuff that's come out. And those whispers happened beforehand, by the way. So I don't really credit that all to the silly season. So you just look at the draft and you realize, I think, that, the stud guy isn't necessarily there. But I do feel that, Marilyn. I feel like Patriots fans are more accepting of the idea of Will Campbell at 4. All right, 3 more nuggets. I want to get to them quick. Josh Simmons, intriguing prospect, left tackle, Ohio State. Tantalizing talent, tantalizing athleticism. But again, somebody with questions. Here's what Jordan Reed from ESPN wrote about Josh Simmons today. He performed on-field drills at Ohio State's pro day, but the timeline still remains uncertain for when he'll be fully cleared. If he managed to stay healthy throughout the entirety of the 24 season, Simmons was trending toward being the top offensive lineman in this class. Some scouts I talked to have a hard time seeing him getting out of the top 20, while others think he could fall to the late first round or even into the early parts of day 2 because of the injury. This is interesting because it could have an impact on the Patriots. What kind of read did the Patriots have on Simmons? Because if you do, let's say, hypothetically, draft Jalon Walker at 4 and you want to get your tackle later in the first round, you have to have a good gauge of where these guys are going to be. The Kelvin Bankses, the Josh Simmonses, all those guys that we've talked about, the Connerleys. I think it's pretty safe to say that Ariante Ursary is going to be in the second round, but you've got to have a good read on where Josh Simmons is going to go. Can you trade in? Where do you have to get to, do you believe, to draft Simmons? Or, as Jordan Reed said, there are people that believe he could fall to the early portion of the second round. Maybe the Patriots have a read on the Josh Simmons thing, and Simmons falls to the 30s, 33 to 38, somewhere in that range. So it's critical for the Patriots to have that intel and understand where Josh Simmons is likely going to go. Because if you don't draft that tackle at 4, then you've got to have a great feel. I mean, if you could read the market and you could gauge that Simmons is going to fall into the second round, imagine just sticking and picking at 38. But you've got to read it perfectly, because if the tackles go before 38, then you're screwed. Interesting stuff. Terry Grant with a $50 bomb to the super chat. Thank you, Terry, for the 50. So Nick can buy Kelly a beer too, or a Starbucks. Amazing work this week with all of the podcasts. I'm trying. Hopefully, everybody eventually catches up to all the content. I know some of your viewing or listening habits might be changed if you want to try to catch all of it. Like I said, I go Monday through Friday on Locked On, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, live here at 3 o'clock. Do what you would love to do with that information, whether it's check me out on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Locked On, listen to everything. I appreciate it in what you do, and hopefully the community here at Everything Pat stays strong. Terry's been an OG, Marilyn an OG, Charlie earlier, a bunch of OGs. So thank you, Terry, for the 50. Your incredible generosity. I appreciate you. All right, continue to talk about the draft lacking some top talent. This has been a theme as well. Matt Miller, ESPN. In a conversation with a high-level scout, I was told to expect the unexpected in the first round. Quote, the first round is going to be wild, unquote. That's relating that the lack of consensus grades means we'll see many quote-unquote reaches in round one compared to our media boards. So Matt Miller is saying, the league's telling him, don't believe the hype. Don't believe any of these media boards. There's not really a consensus as far as grades with many of these guys at all. So get ready. Get ready, because there are going to be, picks that are considered, at least, considered by some, reaches, because there's just a lack of consensus when it comes to the talent in this draft. And it's something I've been talking about. It's this idea of, you've got Will Campbell. Will Campbell's not Joe Alt. Joe Alt is just pretty much a guaranteed stud if he stays healthy at the tackle position. You don't have a Joe Alt in this draft. You don't have that guy. You might think that somebody could be that guy. You might think that Membu has a ceiling like that. You might think that Simmons has a ceiling like that. But there's nobody that you walk into draft night saying, that's a Joe Alt. There's just nobody. The reality of this draft is there's a lot of guys with a lot of questions. And drafting an above-average player, a guy that could make a Pro Bowl or two, drafting somebody like that in the top 5 or 6, other years might not be sexy because you're looking for all pros and future Hall of Famers. But that's what this draft is. That's what this draft is. It's the reality. One more quick note. The Patriots brought in Keandre Lambert-Smith for a visit this week. Auburn wide receiver. He visited Buffalo and has visits with Arizona and Baltimore next week. Lambert-Smith is fast. You want fast guys? You draft fast guys. Lambert-Smith ran a 4.37 at the combine, 6'1", 190, 50 catches, 981 yards, and 8 touchdowns. I see people saying, oh, we don't need another Tyquan Thornton. Listen, if you drafted Tyquan Thornton in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round, nobody would have cared. The problem with Tyquan Thornton was you picked him in the 2nd. The problem with Tyquan Thornton is that you moved up to pick him in the 2nd. The problem with Tyquan Thornton is you picked him before you picked George Pickens. So every time somebody says, oh, Tyquan Thornton, like, that to me is just kind of lazy analysis. It's smarmy. It's like, oh yeah, here comes another Tyquan Thornton. If you drafted Keandre Lambert-Smith in the 5th round or 7th round, nobody's gonna care, right? Like it's not. You're taking a flyer on the speed at that point. And I wouldn't mind taking a late flyer on a speedy wide receiver. Why the heck not? Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Help us out. Help us out with that algorithm. All of those things help us. The likes, the comments, the subscriptions, trying to get to 6,500. Locked On Patriots podcast, Monday through Friday. If you want more content, it's over there as well. I appreciate every single one of you and hope that all of you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday. Peace.